Welcome everybody, would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome everybody, Happy New Year, thanks for coming today. Appreciate it. Karen, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Gomez?
Present.
Gary Clark?
Here.
Laura Mayer is absent. Tammy Earl? Here. Adam Stransky?
Here.
Sean Correct?
Here. Here.
Item number 4 on the agenda is the approval of the January 2nd, 2013 agenda.
And I move we accept the agenda as presented. Support.
We have a motion and support to accept the agenda as presented. Further discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries 6-0. Item number 5 in front of you, you do have a set of the minutes from our last special meeting on December 28th. We had a chance to take a look at those. Any questions, comments, concerns?
Just like we said, so I'll move that we approve the minutes from the special meeting of December 28th.
Support.
We have motion and support to accept the special meeting minutes from December 28th as presented. Further discussion? All those in favor say yes. Yes. Opposed, the same. Motion carries 6-0. Item number 6, communications or expressions from the public. If there's anybody here that would care to address the board, please raise your hand and be recognized, and we can hear your comments.
I just, Mindy Jeffries, the Federal Program Coordinator. I'm sure probably most of you have known, but I did, at the request of Mike Bassage, just before actually coming to the meeting, I sent a notice out to all of the staff for the benefit dinner for the Searfoss family, which is this Friday, February 4th at the Knights of Columbus Hall in Gladwin. That would be Ruth Ann Schlay's first grade teacher's son-in-law who died unexpectedly in an accident. They're having a benefit dinner for her daughter and 4 children. And so the staff, I just want to make the board aware of that activity and event also.
This Friday?
That's this Friday,
Okay.
February 4th. Yeah, at the Knights of Columbus Hall in Gladwin.
January.
Or, yes.
You said that, that's like, oh man.
I wrote February.
Where'd the month go already?
Yeah.
It can't be that far already.
You sound like that. I've been doing calendar on it.
Really?
And with that, the other thing that I'd just like to let the board know is that we have been working out the testing schedule. January is our winter testing window. And we had a lot of glitches in the fall with the back testing, which you may know as NWIA, which was new this year. I think we have the schedule worked out much better for the winter session. We're hoping to have the testing completed rather than in 21 days, more in line of 8 days. That's going to mean some sharing of the mobile carts that were purchased across buildings, and I think that's going to run much better, but I'll be back to let you know. But it's going to be a big January to get all that testing done, and I know Joe Wagner and Aaron Wolschlegel and a few of the assessment data people have been working on that, and I think they have some good ideas for getting it done more quickly and efficiently. I'll let you know.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Godspeed.
Thank you.
That'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. We'll look forward to hearing back. Anybody else? Communications or expressions from the public? Okay. With that, we will get to the meat of the meeting. Item 7, interim superintendent position. So, it's kind of a follow-up from our meeting that we held on the 28th. Did have an opportunity to do some follow-up for the board. And before we go any farther, I'd just like to take 2 seconds and recognize 2 individuals. Here on my left is Dave Marston, potential candidate for interim superintendent. So thanks for coming tonight, Dave. We appreciate that.
You bet.
And then over here on my right is Angie Irwin, another candidate that we've been considering for this position. So Angie, thanks for coming tonight. Great to have you guys here. We appreciate you both expressing interest and being willing to come to the meeting and take part in the process that's going on. So thank you very much to both of you. At our last meeting, we had kind of discussed the candidates that we had, and what the board had asked me to do was go forward and check some references. With the holiday season, I had placed 1 phone call to the board president, Dick Batchelder in West Branch, and did have an opportunity a few evenings ago to chat with him relative to Mr. Marston's performance in the past. and was met with very good response. Dick was very positive, indicated that Dave had, done a great job for them, was very community-oriented, goal-oriented, was somebody that was very visible, to the staff and to the community. I asked him specifically about communication, both written and oral, was very strong from Dick's perspective. So, all in all, did have very positive feedback. So appreciated the phone call back from the president of the board there. And then also had an opportunity to follow up with 2 staff members that live in the West Branch district based on a conversation that we had. So I had a nice conversation last night with Mindy. Thanks very much for that, Mindy. I had very good things to say about Mr. Marston, as well as had some discussion with Jeff Budge, relative to Dave being out in the district and visible. Really everybody that I had talked to, along with the RESD and past staff members that have had the opportunity to interact with Dave, had positive things to say. So I believe those were the action items relative to Dave that you guys asked me to take a look at. Did also have an opportunity to follow up with Angie after we discussed the interim position as well as the full-time position. And if I'm saying anything I shouldn't, feel free to throw a book at me, but I think what we discussed is that your availability would be almost immediate if it needed to be, but a few of the board members expressed some potential interest and wondered if you would consider taking a look at the full-time position as a candidate through the process, and you'd indicated that you would have some interest in that. So that was really what you guys had asked me to follow up on. So are there questions? Anybody have anything that they need to talk about?
Well, I just, having a lot of family in the West Branch area, naturally I got on the horn with a few of them, even though one of them just got out of the hospital with triple bypass, hopefully in an emergency. He still had plenty good to say, so. Apparently Mr. Marston does communicate well with the community, and actually, from what they tell me, he actually listens to what the community says.
That's good.
So I had nothing from all the people I talked to. I had absolutely nothing except very positive comments, and saying that if we basically one of them went so far as to say, if you can get him, get him.
Well, we know we can get him for short term, right? We know that it's not permanent.
Right.
But,
And that's part of what I would like to see is make sure that we have somebody who's here who doesn't have an interest in a long-term position, but who can assess our district, help us address any shortcomings that we might have, and basically prepare us so that the next person that comes in as a full-time person is coming into a smooth running operation with all the cogs all greased up and working nice and smooth together. So that's my take on it.
Okay, good. Anybody else have any? I will tell you that I did pass by David sent along a sample contract. I did pass that by Bill also today, and I had a phone call from him on the way back. He had taken a look at it, just had, I think, 2 real small revisions based on the conversation you and I had had, Dave, about, it being a 5-day position, other than that, I saw no issue with that. So if we were to move forward, I think the contract document would essentially be exactly as was presented, less the rate that was in that, and then the number of days. So other than that, I thought that was a fine document to engage if we wanted to do that. So I don't know if anybody has a recommendation or.
Well, I am going to make the motion that we engage David Marston as our interim superintendent. And I'm not going to put the time period on it. Because
Right, yep.
I in my mind, I see it as a 6-month position, but, sometime this summer, I would hope that we'll be able to install a permanent superintendent, but if the district's not ready, I don't want to put an end on it. So that's why I left, just where I left it as engaged as the interim superintendent.
And I think the contract, if we, move forward, doesn't leave us with it does leave us open-ended relative to terms, so we wouldn't put an end date on
Effective immediately, right?
it.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Effective immediately. I will amend my motion to say effective immediately.
Perfect. Support. Okay. We have motion and support to engage David Marston for the position of interim superintendent, effective immediately. Further discussion?
We do have to talk about the compensation.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then we're also going to have to talk about our goals. We're going to have to, I don't know if we're prepared to have that discussion tonight, or if we need to do that in consultation with our interim superintendent and with our staff, with administrative staff and teaching staff, and some members of the public. And what do we need to see done in the next few months to make sure that we are the school district that we want to be, or at least that we're heading towards it?
Yeah. Well, I think, a couple of things relative to that. First, compensation. Dave and I had some conversation relative to his 3-day-a-week position that he most recently came up with Whittemore Prescott. The compensation was $350 a day, plus mileage on behalf of the district and things like that. And through the conversation that Dave and I had, and I shared with you guys, Dave would be happy with between $300 and $325 a day. So I think my proposal would be, for round figures, is to move forward with the $325 a day in the contract, and we can take a look at the number of days and things like that if everybody's agreeable to that.
And in that, I would.
And what you guys are going to do really tonight is say, let's go ahead and have the conversation.
Exactly.
Our meeting on the 14th will bring back the executed contract
Yes.
for everybody to take a look at, but that doesn't preclude us engaging Dave between now and the 14th.
And that is, what I would do is, if we approve this motion, I would have a follow-up motion to allow you to engage in negotiation with Mr. Marston, make all preparations.
Sure, yep.
And make all arrangements to make it happen.
So you want to amend your motion?
No, I had to do that as a separate motion.
And then you talked about goals. I really envision, our meeting on the 14th will be an important meeting, right? It's our organizational meeting. Now that we know who we will be moving forward for engagement, I think it gives the board an opportunity, to really think about direction. Would like to, of course, have everybody take some time individually once Dave's engaged. We got to let him get his feet wet just a little bit, but everybody kind of, reach out and have some conversation with him between now and the 14th. Stop in the office, give him a phone call, so that we can have good dialogue on the 14th, because it's going to be important that we've, had these communications. Because thus far, you're going on my recommendation in the conversations that I've had, along with the other, recommendations of multiple other individuals. So I think that's going to be a good time for us to have our goals conversation.
And we can come prepared with
Yep.
with ideas, so we can have a profitable conversation rather than
Sure.
blue sky conversation.
Yeah.
Be
Productive.
productive.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to engage Dave Marston as our interim superintendent. Further discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries 6-0.
Okay, now I move to allow the board president to negotiate with Mr. Marston the specifics and be prepared to bring it to the board on the 14th.
Okay, so we have motion and support to authorize the board president to negotiate with Dave Marston for the interim position for final documentation to be brought back at our organizational meeting on the 14th. Further discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries 6-0. So, with that, we'd like to say welcome, Dave. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you and to the board. I appreciate the opportunity. I'm truly looking forward to it. Thank you.
You're welcome, thank you. Angie would also like to thank you for coming and your interest. I will tell you again that the board was very impressed by your credentials. The stuff that you have done, right, I didn't know that you did, and neither did a lot of the folks on the board. So, we hope that as we move forward with our position hunt, that you would be willing to be a part of that. So thank you very much for.
Thank you, and thank you for your consideration.
Sure, you betcha.
I'm going to just ask for one favor. If we could allow our newspaper editor to get a picture of you that she can use in the newspaper when we introduce you to the community. I'd appreciate that.
That'd be great.
Bob's our local historian, so he's always thinking about pictures and all that good stuff. So.
That's great.
We don't have a long time to get you introduced to the community before we expect some production.
All right. Well, we better get at it then.
Perfect. Anybody have anything else relative to the interim position? Okay.
I have a question, just as a public. My name is Angie Beebe. Where's the money come from to pay for this? I'm just curious.
So it would be a general fund expenditure that would pay for our interim position. Yep.
If we're asking questions, I know I'm kind of...
I'll let you guys flip-flop a little bit. Normally, right, that's not the way we do it, but I'll let you tonight.
you had mentioned that, and I don't know either one of the candidates, we were busy. You had mentioned though that you were going to pay him mileage, or he got mileage at his last job. Are we doing mileage for this position, or is it just the $350?
It would be he would be coming to the district every day. That's something that we would take a look at if we asked him to head for a conference somewhere in Ohio. We would pay mileage just like.
It's not just to show up here.
Right, yeah, no, anything
Okay.
extra on behalf of the
Okay.
district. Yeah, just like I'm required to get to work every day.
Right.
But if
Okay.
they send me.
Well, I
somewhere-
was kind of filling it
Yep,
and I didn't
yep.
know.
No, that's a great question.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
That was one of the questions that I had was, is the board looking at a 5-day-a-week seat time?
Yeah,
Good.
yep. We think that's gonna be beneficial.
That was brought to me by a few different people, so I passed that along.
Sure.
And add my own to that.
Yeah, and discussion that we had at our last meeting was about 5 days was, if you recall, that we figure there's a lot of work to be done here. And has to be in the community in order to be able to work for the community.
We'll get you looking good in a red shirt, Dave.
Yeah, how are you looking, Red?
Try to make it work.
Okay. All right. So before we adjourn, Tammy, do you or do you just want me to bring this to everybody's attention?
Yeah, next Friday, January 11th, right before the Beaverton Gladstone basketball game, there will be spaghetti dinner held here at the high school. All proceeds will go to the Beaverton Middle School Play Area Fund. There will also be silent auction and bake sale. Again, those proceeds will go to the same fund. So if you come into the game, come a little bit early and have dinner.
You don't gotta do dishes that night. That's good. Perfect. Okay. Anybody, anything else? How's that, Gary? I told you, 30 minutes or less. Okay, we're adjourned. Thanks a lot, everybody. Appreciate it.